Now this one's more up to date. This is a digital form. This is a digital form of a gas meter. Gas meters are pretty straightforward unless you see the older ones, but you need to know how to read it. All right. Okay. So when you read it, when you read a gas meter, you read off the front numbers just as normal, but in the back, if it didn't quite make it to the next number in the back, so usually like when the actual technician comes and reads those numbers off, you're gonna I'm not gonna use green, let's use black here. Where's my markers at? Okay, so when you read off the numbers, you're gonna read it off as 976518. And now since it didn't get to the 4 yet, you have to read off the number that you're previously at. That's how you read off a gas meter. Even though you didn't get to 4, you're still at 3. It's like on the clock. You didn't get to 12 o'clock, you're at 11 o'clock still. That type of thing. Now this is an electric meter. It's pretty straightforward. They're on the side of the houses. Usually like this type would be on like an apartment building. We have like a bunch of different ones. It's just kind of, it's more clean, it's easier to read. I consider, it doesn't look digital, but it's way better than the more analog versions, which you're about to see here in a second. Does everyone feel comfortable with how you read it? The reason why I'm bringing this up, these things are made in such a way that they're fail-safe, that it doesn't ever break because it's using a little mechanism on the inside when the gas passes through the line, and it pushes the little meter, and it works pretty spot on. You can't get into the box itself and like rework it, like wind it back. Some people are like, I'm not gonna use gas this month, so I'm gonna wind it back. Because all the numbers are in such a way that the gears on the inside turn the next number, so when you try to crank one backwards, it strips out the gears and they can instantly see it, and then you're gonna be charged with fraud. Okay, it's one of those things. It's a pretty ingenious little device that it keeps track of the numbers really, really accurately. Gas meter, like the reader that comes to your house, the actual technician, they get paid a lot of money to do what I just wrote on the board in 2 seconds. So if that's like a job you want to go into for like Alliant Energy or whatever your natural gas provider is, I'm not joking, you can make some serious money doing that job. I know a couple guys that I went to school with, that's all they do, and they make more money than me. That's pretty sad. That's all the number they had to read. And then all they have to do is subtract it from the previous month. They just keep track, and they come, and so here's what normal ones look like. And this is kind of like, I know this is cartoony, I'm going to show you real examples of it, but let's say this is like January and this is February. I don't know how often yours come to your house. Sometimes they come every 3 months, like every quarter, basically. And they read off the numbers. How this works, on this top one, is there's 4 meters, they have a couple extra ones down here for if it's smaller, but this first dial turns this direction, this dial turns this way, this dial turns back, this one turns this way. This is the fail-safe that you can't just get in there and start winding them backwards, because all the other gears are going against it, and so they strip out. So it's a pretty clever little device how they have it, but knowing like which way it turns is that this one's going towards the one first, towards the one, towards the one, towards the one. That's how I know which way they're spinning. But like on this one, this is a 5, this is a 2, this is a 7, and this one actually did reach 4. It was right on 4, it's 4. But if I went to later in the month, maybe this is a month or 2 later, now they upgraded it, so this is 5, 2, 7, 4, 7, because I actually made it to the 7. So, and then you can actually see that now we have that extra little number in the back compared to this one. They upgraded the device because now they can measure more accurately how much you're using like per day. Usually the more dials you have is the more often they're coming and checking it. That's usually how it works. So if you have like a 4 dial, they're probably coming every quarter. If they have a 5 dial, they're probably coming every month just to check. This is something you need to worry about because sometimes they have these types of meters for water. Sometimes they have for gas, electricity, that type of thing. I think most houses just have one, and you have to have it so it's that there's nothing in front of it. It's not intrusive to get there. What I mean by that is that you can't have a fence that cuts off the reader to getting to their job. You can't have a dog in the fence that's protecting like that meter from that person that needs to go read it. So it has to be somewhere that it can easily get to it, and it's not something that you can move. It's established when your house is built. It has to be in a certain location on the house when you're building it. But I want to get to the actual meters. I want to show you some different examples of this, because this is something like, this is the #1 cost you're going to spend on housing, is your gas. I know this seems weird, like water. Water's not expensive. Like my water bill a month is maybe $30, because we use a lot of water. My son takes showers forever, because he thinks it's funny. Electricity, yeah, it's kind of expensive, you know, but we're on a payment plan for electricity. Gas in an old home that you heat with gas is stupidly expensive. When I lived in Ames, I lived in an apartment down in Ames, not like a new apartment, it was like a house that I was renting. The gas was more than the electricity, water bill, and the rent. The gas cost more than the rent did. So, because it was a big home, we had a lot of people in there, and we're trying to heat all the rooms. It's one of those things you gotta think about, okay? All right, next one. I don't know if I can read this one. Not even close. Oh, perfect. All right, here we go. Okay, so here's a traditional reader that's outside your home. It's old school. You can see which way the dials turn. So on this one, it's not quite to 2. So if you're actually reading this off, the first one here is, it's not quite to 1 yet, so we have to say 0. This one is not quite to 2, so it's a 1. This one isn't quite to 2, so it's a 1. And this one's at 0. Like, you have to always read the smaller number if it's not quite to the next one. I know that seems really weird, but that's how you're supposed to read the meters. And then what they do is, like, let's say this is January, because somehow it was reset to 0, maybe it's a new home. Then the next month, the next reading is this, where maybe the dial's at 3, the dial's at, let's say the dial's at 4, and then this meter is at, let's say it's at between 2 and 3. So that would be 0. If it's between 3 and 4, now it's 3. It's between 4 and 5, it's 4. It's between 2 and 3, it's a 2. You always pick the smaller of the two numbers. And why you'd actually look at that is because you can actually subtract from what I had earlier, the later date minus the earlier one. The earlier one was 110. And when you actually subtract these, this is how much you actually used over that 2-month period. And that's something you need to check in your bill. Are they putting the right units down? Now, I used way too much, so that's stupid how much that was used. Usually it's just, it's very small numbers, and then you have to look at what the price you're paying per unit, per cubic feet of gas. So maybe it's, I don't know, 50 cents. Maybe it's 50 cents a cubic foot. So you're taking 232 times 50 cents, you're looking at like a $116 bill. So that can give you an idea of how much you're using. You can check this on the side of your house yourself now that you know how to read it. So you can actually see how much you're using if you know what you got to pay per cubic foot. It's pretty straightforward. But I'm not joking. I'm showing you this in like 2 minutes, and you get serious bucks for doing this around towns for the electric company, gas company, whatever you have. Okay, you just need to know how to read it and how to subtract. That's their whole job. Now, don't get me wrong. Those appliance, those utility companies, they do a lot more. They have to install them, but a majority of their job over the year is just checking meters. So that's what they get paid for. And they make a lot of money sometimes. Next one. I don't know if I can zoom in on this one. Same thing. It's a 4 dial, so they're probably checking it every 3 months. So this number. Can somebody read off what that number is going to be?
1, 2, 5, 1.
0, 1.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
5, 1.
0, 1, 5, 1, or 0, 2, 5, 1. Just depends if that's actually on 2. I don't think it is, but yeah, 0, 1,
Cubic feet.
5, 1. That's just how you read it. And that's in cubic feet. How much you're using. Because remember, cubic feet. Why they say it's cubic? Because it's volume of gas. So they're actually looking at how much you're actually using over that time period. Okay. All right. Questions at all about the numbers themselves? I know this seems stupidly simple, but it's one of those things like you will spend the most money on these. That's why in Clear Lake, If you've ever seen those houses in the middle of Clear Lake, when you're going up towards the library, those really big Victorian homes, like really big.
The old ones?
Really cool homes, they have really cool designs on the inside, some of them have those things, like they have hidden passages through walls and stuff. Like, I'm not joking, like some of those houses are gorgeous because they were built in a very different era where they had slave passages for servants. Very cool homes. To heat one of those homes is astronomically high, and that's why they're for sale all the time. Like, when I'm talking like, you know, your mortgage might be $1,200 a month, your bill for the heating of the house might be twice that. So you can't afford it in a lot of the times. A lot of times, those types of homes, the upstairs is not, you don't even live in the upstairs during like the winter. You live downstairs where the heat's close and you don't have to turn up very high. I'm not joking, like it's crazy how expensive those homes get. But kind of curious. Alright, today, if you have not turned in your homework today, get that turned in. I know we have just 10 minutes or so left here. Turn that in. Tomorrow we're going to talk about gas. We'll talk about a little bit of water type of thing, how they can check that. This is the gas kind of utility meter. So I thought this was kind of interesting. We had to use these. We had to talk about them. Okay, but that's it for today. You can hit the lights.